it's Daxton Page. Welcome back to another episode of Musician Mastery. So today we're going to be doing a tier list of all of the different strategies that are out there and commonly taught to musicians and sold to musicians as the way to go forward in their business. And we're going to be going through and rating them from S tier all the way down to F tier. Now my criteria here is how good the strategy is at getting in front of new fans, converting those new fans, and monetizing as quickly as possible. So I'm going to be using a kind of practicality sort of approach to this as well. Like, not every band is going to have a $100,000 ad budget. You know, it's kind of just simple things like that. So what can the average artist, someone who isn't big, someone who isn't on the radio or a top contender on Spotify, right? What is something that just the average musician can use, and how would we rank those things? Because some of these things can be effective, but they're not very affordable for the average musician, and we're going to be going through each of these. So let's go ahead and dive into this sort of thing. So I'm going to be starting from the top down. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I think that'd be fine. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the first one is the Dream 100. Now, some people may not even know what the Dream 100 is. What this is it's a strategy developed by a guy named Chet Holmes. He has a book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. I'll put a link for that in the description. It's a fantastic book, and inside of this, he outlines the Dream 100 strategy. Now, I'm going to be doing a simplified version of it for you here, because the Dream 100 could represent two things, in my opinion. They could represent the Dream 100 as far as dream partnerships that you would love to have inside of your music business. So let's say, for instance, you could view that as collaborations, because that's just one side of it, because there's music business sides of it, and there's also artist sides of it. So you could think of it like, I have a Dream 100 of my top favorite artists who are in my genre, who I would love to be associated with, because they're the top players and they have the same kind of sound that I'm really into. And if we were all together hanging out all the time, that would be something that would be not only awesome because I love this kind of music and I love these people, but it would be cool because it would also be increasing my exposure in my career. And, you kind of want to make sure that you don't just go into these relationships in what would you say, just looking out for yourself. You kind of actually want to build genuine relationships with people. So don't try to be, just that guy who's making relationships with people because you're trying to get something out of it. Actually try to be nice and build a friendship with these people, because those strategic partnerships can come back to serve you. So let's say I was a pop singer-songwriter and I was able to become friends with Taylor Swift, right? What kind of influence could Taylor have then to drive people my way if she said, hey, I have this friend who just put something out, go check it out? How much more weight does that have to the overall marketplace of fans when Taylor Swift says go check it out versus just seeing some ad on Facebook, right? It's pretty powerful, right? So that's kind of the concept behind the Dream 100 strategy, is you would like to find the top 100 collaborations that would be the most beneficial and strategic for your music business. And that can be artists doing collabs with songs. That could also be partnering with different, let's say, like there's a booking agency that you have a friend in the business and they use a booking agency, right? Like figuring out who's the top booking agents then and that I should go for, and all these kind of different strategic relationships that would help out your music business. That's what the Dream 100 is. And so what would I rank it on this system? So this is probably a term a lot of people this is brand new for them, and where am I going to rank this brand new thing? I'm very tempted to put it at S tier. That's how good of a strategy I think this is, but for the moment, this may change. I think for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it at A, because, before we go and say this is the best strategy ever, there's some kind of downsides, I guess, to the Dream 100, which is like you have to put in the man hours to send out sort of these, what would you call it? It's like you're sending them out packages or things that they like. For instance, like I think it would be really cool. Like I am a big fan of books, right? So if somebody sent me a really cool book and was like, hey man, I really thought you would enjoy this book, and I have this other thing I would love to talk to you about, because I think we could do some really great business together. Give me a call here. Hope you enjoy the book. I'd probably be like, oh man, that's pretty cool, man. They sent me, I got a free book that I was actually really interested in reading, because maybe I mentioned it in an interview or I mentioned it in a video somewhere or something. And then I'm more prompted to go like, okay, I'm going to go reach out to that person. They really did something cool for me that was kind of like something I genuinely liked. I'm going to reach out to them. If you do that to somebody else, right? Let's say there's an artist that you know really likes this weird thing because it's their hobby when they're not out on the road. It'd be send them something and just be like, hey man, you don't even have to be that like upfront about, hey, check out my thing. Just be like, hey man, I thought you would dig this, you know, hope you enjoy it. Here's my name, you know, and then like you could, I guess you could leave your number there, but like maybe not. Don't even put your number there. Just be like, yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoy this. Here's my name, and they'll be able to probably find you on Facebook or something like that, or Instagram, all these different sites. So there is some downsides that it does require a lot of man work, because if you find, I bet a lot of people would struggle to actually get 100 inside of it, because like when I did it, I got up to like 45, I think. Right, I was just like, who else would be like a great strategic relationship? And I was struggling to even get past the 50 mark. So 100 is just kind of like long-term for your business, what would be the best thing. So it does take a lot of upfront work to put in all this information and keep up with this, because that means if you do fill out the 100, that's 100 different relationships that you have to manage and you have to actually keep up with. And so just kind of be aware that it is something that requires you to not be shy. And some artists kind of struggle with that. They're very shy. You know what I'm saying? They have a hard time at the merch table selling and being super extroverted and stuff. So that's why I put it at A instead of just S tier, because I do love it, but there are some downsides if you're an artist. All right, the very next one. I'm just going to go down from here. Blogs. Okay, so there's a lot of different sites out there. We all know about these blog sites. How beneficial is, either spending time to go out and get on a blog, or spending money to go out and get on a blog? What is that worth? I would honestly, as far as exposure, I've been on some, my band has been on some magazines in the past. No, or not magazines, excuse me, these blogs. I mixed them up there. They've been on some blogs in the past, and we thought like, oh, this is great. We got like a review, and this is going to give us a lot of traction and drive a lot of people our way. But I found that like, it doesn't really do too much, but what the benefits of it are is that you can kind of leverage it for press and kind of credibility. So if you have a lot of good reviews, let's say you've got like a bunch of unknown websites, with all due respect to those websites, they're kind of unknown, but they do review of your single or your record, and it's positive, right? You can use any of those quotes and be like, yeah, man, this place said this place said that, and now the people reading it may have never heard of that blog before, but it's the words that matter. It's the, whoa, what? They said you guys were the next this, or you guys had a new cutting edge sound, or whatever it happens to be. So with that being said, it's not a bad idea, because by and large, if you find a lot of sites, it's mostly free. A lot of places are looking for content and good content, so if you can provide them good music to write about, I'm sure they're going to be happy to do something about it. I would maybe put it in the C category, just because it's like an affordable thing that any musician who's got some songs or some demos out, they can like start submitting it to blogs. And once you start submitting it to blogs, you're going to have this at least like group of people who can write about you, and now you can reference that in electronic press kits, because those are important things whenever you're dealing with like booking agents and things like that. So blogs, I'm going to put at the C tier, because you're balancing the negatives of, does being on the website itself increase my traffic? Not really, but you can leverage that to do other things that are beneficial. So I'm kind of putting it right in the middle. So let's go to the next thing. Reels and shorts. Basically, we don't know what to call them specifically. A lot of people are just calling them reels. These 9x16 videos that you've seen. I've posted some on this YouTube page and all my other socials, so you know exactly what kind of video we're talking about. It's the type that every single social media is going towards today. I really like this strategy, because I've tested it across my own channel and across my band's channel, and one of the things I've found is that it doesn't really matter what platform. Because Facebook, you can get a lot of people to watch it on Facebook. You can get a lot of people to watch it on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts. I've seen results where I post a video out on Instagram, and that video gets like 70 views. But then that same video on TikTok gets 3,000, and then that same video on Facebook gets like 300. right? And then all of a sudden the next video, it's the same kind of deal, but just on a different platform. So, oh, it blew up on YouTube this time, but it didn't do so well on Facebook, and it did mediocre on Instagram. These kind of things happen. So what my suggestion is, make sure you put content out in the form of a reel, that kind of short, 45-second, 9:16 video. If you can put out a lot of those, that's going to get your organic reach really hyped up there, because Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, they want you to produce that kind of content. So when you do the things that those companies want their creators to do, they're more likely to push you. That's helping you get pushed in the algorithm. So where would I recommend this thing? I would recommend it, or would I put it on the, not recommend it, but because I obviously do, but where would I place it on the tier list? I'm going to say A. And the reason I say A, again, is because the downsides to Reels is that it's really inconsistent. The biggest problem is you can post content regularly, but there's no guarantee that, obviously it's a beneficial thing. Like, you should be posting consistently. That's for sure, you should be doing that. But that doesn't guarantee that your video views are going to go like this, right? What it guarantees is probably that you'll have these spikes, and every 3 videos, every 4 videos, if sometimes it's every 7 videos or every 3 videos, you get a hit where it gets a few thousand. Oh, I got a few thousand here, a few thousand there. And you have the likelihood to get that to more people if you do that across multiple platforms, right? So to me, I think Reels are a fantastic strategy, but it's kind of saturated, right? There's a lot going on. So if you don't know how to design your Reels to be engaging within the first 5 seconds or so, to get people to watch the whole thing, you can get buried very easy, because there's certain things you need to do to get people's attention. And if you're not doing something that's engaging, then yeah, you could be posting 4 times a day, but if the content is just meh, it's not going to do very well. So there are some downsides that you have to make sure that you're paying attention to. All right, next. Radio. This is where I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off, because I know a lot of people in my local radio area, and this is something. Okay, let's just go ahead and jump into it. I think radio is an F. Oh, okay. I have to explain this. So why am I saying F? Remember, what is our criteria? Our criteria is the ability to get in front of fans. Well, radio does possess that. The ability to convert those fans. Well, that depends on your song, but the radio is a pretty great medium. I've heard people still say they discover new music on radio, even though they may be listening to satellite radio. It's still radio, quote unquote. But then, so actually, you know what? Because I guess that's something I should differentiate, because there is FM radio. I guess there is AM radio too, but there's FM radio and there's satellite radio. Now, I should have probably separated them, but if I'm going to include satellite into it, then I'm probably going to move it up to E. That's going to increase it just a little bit for me, because I think satellite radio has a better audience. Now, what I mean by that is, there's nothing against people who still listen to radio. I'm talking about the specificity of your targeting can be a lot better with satellite radio, because there's a station for every niche. For instance, you may be in a city where the only radio station around is it's like your only rock station. And so that one station has to encompass all of rock music. And that ends up just kind of playing a handful of songs that you don't really get the full depth of rock as a genre, or even hard rock or metal. So what happens is, on satellite radio, there's a station totally devoted to lithium. It's called Lithium, so it's 90s alternative. And then you have Octane, which is active rock, modern mainstream hard rock. And then you have Ozzy's Boneyard, that's more 80s kind of stuff. And then you have I think Pearl Jam has their own radio, so it's Eddie Vedder's favorites. So there's all these different niches inside of satellite radio. So that can be beneficial. However, the downside to that is the barrier to entry is so high that it makes it not worth it. So in terms of being able to get in front of new fans, convert new fans, and be monetizable, they're pretty good, if, and it's a ginormous if, you have the funding to be able to do a full radio campaign. And I'm telling you, in the past, I've spent up to 20 grand, me and my family, putting together 20 grand for a radio campaign. That is a lot of money, guys. That's a lot more than most average musicians can afford. I understand that. So I like to suggest that, like, I know it's glamorous to like maybe be in your local area and there's a lot of shows that are hosted from your radio station and stuff, but you know, you have this kind of local tie to it. So it's like, man, I wish one day I want to hear my song on this radio station. And guess what? You'll get there, but I think going directly to the radio is where people run into problems, because there's going to be no problem if you're blowing up on social media and all this other stuff, and therefore people are like, oh yeah, we're going to spin that track on the radio because these guys are blowing up. That's the way you want to get on radio. You don't want to get on radio by paying for a radio campaign and paying some radio promoter to go do a promotion campaign on these radios and radio stations, and it's just not worth it for most average musicians out there with a limited budget, right? So that's why I'm putting it so low down there. And so for any of my radio friends that are like, no, radio's supreme because a lot of people still listen to it and all this kind of stuff, it's like, that's all well and good, but it's only really well and good if you've got the industry players and resources to get in there, right? And most times the way you want to get in there is not through those industry means. Is you actually want to get in there because people have such a buzz about your music that they end up spinning your music. You don't want this, oh, well, I have my label and my label paid the radio station to do, you know, you can't actually pay to have your singles boosted, but there's ways people work around the law all the time. I've seen it firsthand, and I've been told about it by the people that did it, so it's like, that's a whole funny story unto itself. So that's why I'm putting radio down at E. So basically, beware. I almost put it at F, you saw, but the only reason I'm putting it at E is because satellite radio exists, right? If it was just FM radio, it would be F for FM, okay? But we're going to bring it up a little bit. All right, lives. So Facebook Live, Instagram Live, TikTok Live, even YouTube Live, things like this. I think there's a good pro and con with this, because depending on what time of day you do this can be very effective. Now, it also depends if the site in question leaves up the live stream, because I haven't done a live stream on Facebook in a minute, but if I remember correctly, Facebook can leave up live streams, like as a post for the long term. And I like that idea. I like the idea that no matter at what time of day I do it, it's still going to be around. You know, there's other sites like TikTok where, if I'm not mistaken, once you end the live stream, nobody else can check it out. It's like you had to be on the live stream to check out the live stream content. And that's where you actually run into problems, because a lot of people, when you're starting out, are not going to be on your live streams, right? Now, the platforms love it when you do this with your content, because what it does is it keeps people who were watching on the platform longer. So if, let's say it's just, your aunt and your mom that are watching, they're like, oh, look, there he is talking about his band and all this kind of stuff. It's like, that's keeping them on the platform longer. So Facebook or whoever is like, okay, well, let's share this live stream to more people, because it's keeping people on the platform longer. Because that's what these apps are designed to do, is just to keep you sucked in for as long as possible. Excuse me, guys. So there's a lot of pros in there, where if you have a live stream that has some pretty intense information on it, that's it's just a really great promotion or whatever you can manage to come up with for a live stream, that can be very beneficial. But if it's just one of these sites like Instagram, where you do a live stream and it very seldomly can be like saved and put into your profile, like, I don't know if it's necessarily worth it in that sense. So because of that, I'm probably going to put it at C as well, because it does have upside to it. If you can get a good live stream that has a lot of great stuff on it and that's shared, that's maybe a call to action that you have during the live stream, is to tell people to share it. All this kind of stuff can lead to a pretty good video that gets viewed by a lot of people, because, like I said, these platforms like it. But Sometimes they just immediately remove it, and so it does us no good if like 5 people saw the live stream and then the live stream ends. It's like, okay, great, I basically just only got to spread this message to 5 people. Not very optimal. So it's going in the C department. Next, forums. This is a little old school. Going at and trying to get on forums and things like this, like I said, it's different, and Reddit could be considered a forum because it is basically, a forum within forum type structure. So things like Reddit, but even things that are, for instance, like if you go to a band's fan club's forum. Now, so it doesn't even have to be that in-depth. For instance, Alter Bridge. That's one of my favorite hard rock bands, right? Some of y'all may know them, some of you may not. But Alter Bridge has a Alter Bridge Nation forum. Now, what's cool about this forum is it was created by fans. So every single person that's signed up to this forum is a die-hard Alter Bridge fan, right? Now, inside of these forums, inevitably, because it just happens, people spam, and they're not smooth like you and I are going to be doing this, right? But they're just like spamming these forums, and they're like, no, we don't like that content. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a folder specifically for that, right? And so what you could do, or I shouldn't call it a folder, it's basically a sub-thread, right? So that sub-thread could be, hey, promotions for your bands. And people that like this band, let's say Alter Bridge, for example, are going to check that out. Some people will. So it can be an avenue to promote your music to people that are of a very targeted audience. And this all comes down to if they have it. Now, some people, I should have, included Discord in the forums category because it's also a Discord. So some bands may not have an actual .com forum, which is kind of old school. They may have a little bit more modern thing like a Discord, which is basically like a forum. And there, like my band has a Discord, and in there we have a spot where people can promote their own stuff because we don't want them competing with our promotions. We want them to have their own little thing where they can compete with each other, right? Which is kind of better because it separates ours into a whole category and all that kind of good stuff. But you can go target other people's Discords and think like, okay, what's a band whose fans I think would really be, receptive to my music? And then you could go to them on their Discord, and you could go to that promote your stuff page, and you could promote your stuff. And you could do this to 10 or 12 different bands, and that would get you out there a relatively good amount. Now, the downside to this is it's a lot of work. That's one of the things that it's just kind of a lot of work. You got to find all these forums. You got to create accounts for all these forums. You got to sometimes you can just log in with Facebook, but you got to do all these different things, and inevitably a lot of these forum places may not have that much traffic to them anyway. So that's sort of the downside of forums, is because it's kind of an old school thing. There may be not so populated forums, so you may post to 5 or 10 different .com forums for bands, and you may only get an extra 100 or 500 or 1,000 views, and you're like, okay, well, that did something, but now it's it's ran its course and it's done. So it can kind of work, but if you get on some Discords potentially that have a lot of traffic inside of them, that's why you want to aim for the top players so you get the most traffic that you're aiming for. I guess it can turn out all right for you, but I have to kind of stack it either in the C category or in the D category, because I just haven't had that much exposure with promoting solely on Discord, for instance. So part of me wants to put it at C just as a safeguard, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it at C. That may change. We'll see as we go through this video what may change as we go through and we learn more information. All right, next is playlists. This is a huge talking point for a lot of people out there that are trying to learn about the music business and for people teaching about the music business. Are playlists overhyped? Yes and no. Because there are a lot of different playlists out there where you have someone who is just an independent person, they're not a label or anything, they create a playlist and they put stuff on it, and their job is to get a lot of people to view the playlist. And then what you think as an artist is, I'm going to go out and I'm going to reach out to that playlist and say, hey man, or a girl, would you feature this? Would you put this inside of your playlist? And usually what they do is they ask for a fee. And it's usually cheap. It's like $25 for a month or something like that, which is nothing too crazy. But if you have to do 4 different playlists like that, that's about $100, So you have to pay for it, but here's what you have to worry about, because you do not know, ultimately, how they're getting the views they're getting. Because some people create playlists, and the playlists get views from bots. And when you have playlists that get views from bots, if you pay to put your song inside of that playlist, you are going to get a bunch of bots that stream your song, and now the algorithm is going to then send your releases to all those fake bots that really are never going to interact with you again, and they're never going to reach any normal people who are just actually streaming your music. So you will effectively ruin your Spotify. And I can't imagine a more pain in the ass headache than having to try to figure out how to take down my whole Spotify as an artist as a whole and then repost it again. And my band's name, Kira, just happens to be other people's actual names. So sometimes we'll have other people's content pop up on our page, and we email Spotify and they move it off. But it's like, if I had to reset up my page, it would be just a freaking nightmare. So playlists have a huge downside if you're not careful. Now, however, if you are able to land on an editorial playlist, now editorial playlists are Spotify curated playlists. You'll always see the Spotify logo up in the top left or top right of each of these playlist covers, so you know which one Spotify creates. And in those cases, those are the best type of playlists that you can be on. Now, what you want to do is, in my opinion, I think the best thing to do is to create an LLC. Now, again, you can always consult with your CPA or whoever to make sure this is good for your situation. But I think it's a great idea to create an LLC that is your record company's LLC. Give it a cool name. Don't call it like your band's music LLC or whatever. You want to call it something like Super Awesome Record Label LLC. I'm just kidding. Don't call it that. But call it something creative, something that distinguishes it from your band, and it just kind of sounds like a record label name, right? Then what you can do is have that record label be associated. Maybe it collects all the publishing or all the master kind of rights for your song. However you want to do it, right? There's a whole bunch of different strategies that you can do to set that up. But if now presenting that to the Spotify, the people that are picking the songs that are going to go onto the editorial playlist, you can do this, by the way, within your Spotify for Artist account. So if you go to Spotify for Artist and you get that all set up, you can actually, if you have a release, make sure you submit this early. If you're like, let's say you're releasing it on January 1st, do not submit it to them December 31st, because you won't even be able to do it. So what I would do, if you're submitting it on January 1st, that's when you want it to go live, I would submit it by like October or something, or maybe even November, and get it out to them early so that you can like submit the release, and so they can look at it and see if there's some playlists that you can be fit into, and then that can actually be pretty beneficial. So all in all, playlists, they've got their ups, they've got their downs. I'm going to say if you're able, well, here's the thing though. Playlists, I was just about to put them in like C or B category, but here's the downside. The average musician, how easily are they going to be able to implement this strategy? See, part of me, like, I think setting up the LLC is not the problem, but I do feel like I don't know if Spotify takes into consideration the size of monthly listeners, because if so, that would make it less effective. But let's put it at C. You'll notice there's a lot of mediocre strategies. Like, they have their good and their bad qualities, and a lot of things are stacking up in C, but we still got a lot to go, so things are going to fill out, I think, a lot from here. So next up, we have text posts. So it just says text. You guys are probably like, what is that even referring to? I'm talking about when like you go on Facebook and you just see a text-only post, right? To me, I think that isn't as helpful. Like, I don't think a lot of people sit there and read long posts anymore. You remember you used to like see these, like they were like chain emails have morphed into chain like Facebook posts and chain social media posts. but it's all the same thing, right? Remember that stuff? And I think there was a period of time where people were more ready to read a big, long thing someone has typed out, but I think that is becoming less and less true as time goes on, and people are going a little bit more towards the videos, right? And they're that quick video kind of content. It's just seeming to do a lot better. And so for that reason, like, and again, I'm just kind of assuming that like this is an artist who has a limited budget, right? And they're trying to get exposure to people, and they're trying to like monetize and all that good stuff, right? I don't think text posts are very effective. And for that, I'm just going to say F, okay? And the reason I say F, like over like it's worse than radio, well, actually, now that I think about it, is it worse than radio? I would say, heck, actually, you know what? Since it's a little bit more affordable than radio, I'm going to increase it up to D. I was a little harsh, guys. I'm sorry. I was a little harsh on the text posts because they're kind of going out of style. But I will say, for the average musician, it's an affordable thing to do. And if you can get really good at things like copywriting, and when I say that, I'm saying copywriting, copywriting, not, copyright like we think of ownership of something. There's a difference between the two. And basically what copywriting is salesmanship in print. So if you can learn how to be very persuasive through your text, that can be something that can be beneficial, and it can be an affordable option because you can just buy some books on copywriting and learn that skill relatively well, because most people don't even know how to do it. So I think for other artists, that are just kind of starting out, if you can put up some really interesting text posts, that might be something beneficial. But let's move on to the next one. I think we're going to leave it at D for now. We'll see where it ends up later on. We're going to email. Email is one of those strategies that has kind of gotten a bad rap. People are like, email, that's outdated, man. I don't even check my email, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you right now, a lot of people say like, man, I don't even mess with my email, but they actually totally do. And I don't understand why people lie about it like this. But like, I know some people have inboxes that have thousands of messages in them. They will still from time to time open it up because they know they've got a package coming and they need to check the email for some confirmation number or something like that. Like, there are some people, that have just completely gotten rid of email, but for the most part, people still have email very much integrated into their day-to-day life. And a lot of people are very organized too, and email is just another very effective way to get in touch with someone directly. And I am a big proponent of the strategy that an artist should build an email list, because when you build an email list, you have a direct way to contact a fan. That's one of the most important things when we're talking about strategies to help get you out to people. Well, the thing about the algorithm is you got to play by the algorithm's game to get seen by people. Where in this instance, where you have an email list of people that you can just send a direct message to, that is something that like has so much value, that because now you don't have to worry about paying Mark Zuckerberg or Google to get access to your fans. You can actually just send them a direct email. So to me, email is one of those things that it gets a huge bad rap. And again, if you can learn the skills of copywriting, then you can actually put together email chains that are pretty dang good and sell your products, whether that's your fan club, whether that's your merchandise, whether that's a new release or a new music video that you just put out there. Email can be a very, very effective way to actually promote your whatever it is you got going on, because you're actually reaching out to someone directly. Now, for social media, you can post every single day. For email, some people have the diligence and the industriousness to do every single day sending out emails to their email list and conditioning the people on the list to get those daily emails. But that's a lot of work, guys. I wouldn't even recommend that unless you have a team of people that you trust, or maybe it's a few of you within the band or whatever that can do that. So in that sense, that's a little bit unfeasible, but just sending out a few emails and an autoresponder to sell your CD or sell your music video or whatever it happens to be. I say sell your music video, but promote your music video. That, I don't think a lot of things beat email because it's a direct contact. So if you build up an email list of 10,000 people, 20,000 people, when you post on social media, it does not go to 1% of the people on the email list. It goes to every email on the email list. And that's one of the things that a long time ago, social media used to be like that. Social media used to be like if you had 100,000 fans and you posted something, all 100,000 of those fans would get that post in their feed like as soon as you posted it. It's not like that anymore. A lot of you guys know this. You only get like 1% or 5% of your followers to see it, and if they like it, then it goes to more, and so on and so forth. So with email, you don't have to worry about that. You cut right through that kind of stuff. That makes me want to put it at S tier. I'm telling you, because you know what? I'm going to do it. Screw it. I'm saying email is S tier. Hate all you want in the comments. I'm sticking by that because email marketing has existed for a very long time, actually. And it's been tried and true, and it's been working for such a long time. And, people could say, well, that's a bias because things, worked in the past doesn't mean they're always going to work in the future. That's very true. But based on the habits of people today, I don't see that changing very soon because email is still very much integrated into the phone experience, and everyone is very much integrated into their phone experience. That much is true. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. If I decide to take it down from S tier, that may happen. But I think right now I'm sticking to my gun saying that is the S tier that you should focus on. Magazines. Now, this is something that I have some experience with. So when my band released our very first record independently, we had to figure out, okay, how much is it to put an ad? There's a magazine that promotes hard rock music called Revolver, and we wanted to figure out how much that we needed to put up an ad in Revolver. And so we figured out the amount, we raised the funds, and we put out an ad in Revolver. Now, that is a very well-known, like, if I was to say to you, like, I just came up and like, yeah, my band's, I would sound like a complete asshole if I did this, but if I was like, yeah, what's going on? Yeah, my band's been in Revolver magazine, and people didn't know that, like, I just paid for some ad on page 13 or whatever, they'd be like, oh, wow, that's a really big magazine, So you figure, oh my gosh, that's going to yield me a lot of big results. And that's kind of the same fallacy we run into with radio, right? Because the fallacy with radio is like, oh man, you spent the money to be on this big radio station. You spent the money to be in this big magazine. That's going to guarantee that all the people that, buy this magazine are going to check your stuff out. People could just very easily flip through your page. And how do you track? Here's the biggest downfall of radio and magazines and really traditional media. Is you can't get any data. You don't know anything about, like, okay, what time of day were people listening to our song on the radio? Or which particular store did someone buy our magazine at, and how do you track whether they saw it or not? Well, maybe your ad has a call to action to call a cell phone number. Well, that's a good little metric because now you can see how many people called the number. But that's not really the way that you pitch an album on a Revolver magazine type thing. You really just kind of promote the album, have a link to go buy the album. So do you know whether that buy link came from someone reading in a magazine or being on the radio? You have no idea. There's no way to track it. And so for that reason, and the fact that it is not cheap, when we had to raise funds for radio campaigns, just like we had to raise funds for magazine ads, it was very expensive. Okay? So when it's that expensive and you can't track the data, it's kind of becoming an outdated medium anyway. I gotta throw it down to E. Maybe I'm being generous because I'm not throwing anything at F, but like, I don't know, maybe radio and magazines should be an F because there's definitely some things. Are there, like, we'll see, because if there's things that are worse than radio and magazines, I'll be sure to leave them there, but if there's nothing worse than them, they've got to be Fs, because, like, those are pretty bad, and I think I'm just being a little generous now. All right, now we're going on to the next one. Paid ads. Paid ads are actually very, very, very awesome. So in my opinion, paid ads is one of those top tier things, and maybe S tier. Now, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be bold. And I'm going to say S tier. I may move it to A tier, but for now I'm going to say S tier because here's the thing. I was thinking to myself, okay, for the average artist, how effective is paid ads? And some people may say, well, Dax, I don't have $5,000. I don't have $10,000. I don't have $1,000, Dax. How am I going to be able to put together good paid ads for a product? And here, or when I say a product, you know what I mean, the music, right? Because that's inevitably what we're doing. is we're trying to monetize this stuff. Whether it's your merchandise, you're selling your merch to your fan base, or you're selling your fan club to your fan base. Paid ads, how can that work for you? Well, the reason I'm putting it at S tier is you can pick your own budget. You really don't have a minimum. I mean, there are some minimums. I think you can't do like $1 a day. I think you might have to do like $2 a day minimum or something like that. But we can do an ad for, we can stretch it. We could say, I want the ad to run for a week and I want to spend in total $10. Like, okay. Or, I want to run the ad from here to here and I want to spend $20. Or even if you want to spend $5. Like, these are the kind of things that you can decide. And so a lot of bands like, Dax, I don't have $1,000 or $500 or whatever. It's like, you don't have to. You can actually just start throwing out these little ads. Now, granted, what you're looking for is data, because at that small of a scale, you're not going to get like 10,000 views overnight or anything like that. But what you can gather is data for a very cheap price, where you can sit there and say, I put this video out, I put this video out. It's like organic social media, where you just put it out there and you're like, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? Oh, it blew up here. Okay, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? Oh, it blew up here, right? You're looking for data, what videos, what ads convert the best. And then when you work and you build and you save and you do things to actually have resources now to devote towards, like, let's say a $500 ad campaign, a $200 ad campaign, whatever it happens to be, you can look at this data and say, these ads didn't really perform that well, but these ads performed really well. So let's just dump all of our funding into these ads that actually performed. And what you could even do is see of like 3 or 4 ads, like how well they perform together, and then trim the fat and see the one that actually outperforms all of them, and then just dump all your funding into the highest performer, right? These are kind of optimization strategies that you can use inside of your ad strategy. And that's why I think I'm going to put it at S tier, because you can custom the budget, you can custom the audience, like you can target a very, very specific audience. You can go from age, income, marital status, all different kinds of metrics. You can go into their interests, and you can say, like, I want to send this to someone who legitimately is going to like this, not someone who is not going to like receive it at all. Let's say I'm promoting my show that's in Oklahoma. Well, I need to make sure that I target my ad to specifically be to just people in Oklahoma, right? So you can do these things with an ad. If you put out a social media post, you can't really do that. So you have to be like, okay, you just put out a blanket social media post that's targeting a specific subset of your audience, but based on the algorithm, you don't know if that portion of your audience is going to get it. You just have to hope that what it sends out goes to people that do in fact find that information relevant, interact with it, and therefore it sends more information out. But it's kind of like trickier, because what about the fans that you have that are not in Oklahoma or not in your home state? They're in 3 or 4 states away. That post isn't really relevant to them, but you can't really not post it to them. That's just the algorithm's going to send it to them. But with a targeted paid ad, you can just bam, you can go ahead and target it right at the specific audience that you need. So I'm putting it at S tier. I think it's one of the best things that you can use for all the reasons I suggested. Let's move on. Street Team. This is kind of something not a lot of people think about. I saw this, again, funny enough, I saw this from Alter Bridge a long time ago, and I joined it because I was like, I could be on the street team for Alter Bridge? What? Sign me up. What is that? Now, what it is effectively is a group of fans who pay to get these merchandise promotion. I shouldn't call it merchandise promotion. It's just promotion, right? So let's say I had a new album coming out. So the street team would buy this package, and the package would include posters, it would include stickers, it would include, like all that kind of stuff, like mostly posters and stickers and things of that sort, because that's what you can put up in, a display window of a 7-Eleven or a tattoo shop or a wherever, right? So you have a bunch of fans. Now, when they buy this stuff from you, you're not charging them like retail price for that. You charge them like basically at cost. Maybe add 10%, at cost plus 10%. That's a great way for them to, like, they can purchase it from you, but you're not like upselling, you're not like selling it to them. You're kind of giving them just the inventory they need, and they're only paying to acquire the inventory. They're not actually paying for it, right? So now they go out and they go promote your record, or they go out and promote your show, or whatever it happens to be. You have a tour coming through a city. You can say, hey, street team in this city, this city, this city, this city, go out, put flyers up around your town. Let's get some people to the show. And that can be an effective way to promote a live gig. But let's see, I don't know. You could also think of street teams. I didn't think of it. You could think of a street team also as an affiliate. Now, that's the thing, is a band doesn't very often utilize affiliates. But to me, it's like another version of the Dream 100, because you could have people in your Dream 100 that are affiliates potentially if the affiliate becomes big enough, right? And so here's and for those of you that don't know what specifically an affiliate is, an affiliate is someone who signs up to join your affiliate program, and what that does is they get a link to sell a specific product of yours. So let's say you've got a new t-shirt coming out, and so your affiliate will say, hey, check out this new t-shirt, it's awesome, I picked mine up and I love it, buy it here. And they click on that link, just the random person, right? They click on that link that you gave them, their affiliate link, and they buy it. That person will get a percentage of the sale. I know people have probably seen some annoying versions of an affiliate. They've seen the people that are selling like makeup creams and things like that. You know what I'm saying? They're like, buy this soft cream through me, you get a 20% discount, which is cool. It's another way to make some extra side cash if it's something you genuinely believe in. And the reason I think it's an underutilized strategy is because a lot of people really deeply believe in their artists. They really believe in them. And if you also create a financial incentive to help promote your band, that's a pretty cool thing to do. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. Some of you guys have noticed I talk fast and I talk a lot, so I apologize if it's just like, bam, 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 bam. It's just kind of how I am. So you're along for the ride. If you've made it this far, you're awesome. Thanks for watching this. So let's keep on going. So street team, affiliate. Now, where would I rank this for the average musician out there? Now, to get an affiliate program is somewhere around $45 a month if you use services like Lead Dino. No, I am not an affiliate for Lead Dino. But if you use their services, you can get an affiliate program relatively cheap. But I wouldn't think that's something that the average musician just starting out would really want to utilize, because they don't quite have the fan base yet to leverage the strategy. So the downside to this is you kind of have to already have an audience that's well developed, and therefore you have some diehards in that pool of audience that you could say, hey, let's go promote, and you can become a street team or you can become an affiliate. I think those could be two separate things, because the street team is just people paying for the package and then they go promote, because that can happen anywhere, right? But an affiliate, they get links to sell very specific things, right? Okay, so where am I going to put this here? I think, honestly, I'm going to put it, I hesitate to stack up C. If there was a B minus, excuse me, guys. If I could put like a B minus or something, I may put affiliates in there. But also, because it's $45 a month, there are other things like other softwares, like let's say you're paying for Shopify, which Shopify I think is around $29 a month if you get a good package from them. That's something I feel like would be more pressing of you to afford than an affiliate thing. So you have to have that really built up audience, but once you have it, it can be pretty dang good, in my opinion. I think, I've seen people word of mouth sell me on other shit, and I'm like, wow, if that person was an affiliate, they would have made some commission off me falling in love with this band that they just told me about. All right, so let's go to the next one. Phone. So like having a mobile phone, having a connection, right, to them literally directly to their cell phone. I think this is, again, one of the best kind of forms of communication that you can have because it's direct. And you'll notice a theme here of the things that are comprising the top tier, which is that, like, you want to be able to have direct access to your fans. Direct access means there's no algorithm that's going to separate and say, no, you can't reach out to all 1,000 of your fans or 1,000 of the people on your phone list. When you send out a text to 1,000 people, 1,000 people are getting a text. Now, there's services like Call Hub and other types of services. I think one's called, I think it's Trilio. I don't remember what it's called. I just use Call Hub. I think it's a really good one. Callhub.io, I think, is the link that you can go check it out at. But it's great because whatever your phone list is, all these phone numbers that you get from transactions and all these kind of things, or you're at you have an email listing on your merch table, maybe you have a phone number, optional phone number thing there that people can fill in so you can text them. And that allows you to now, whenever there's a release out, you can send a direct text to people. Now, here's what I would warn you about, just as a general rule. Make sure that you don't follow up as frequently as you would on email as you do on phones and text messages, because an email is a good direct form of contact. It's kind of intimate, but it's not too intimate, right? People put offers and stuff all the time through their email, but their cell phone is a extremely intimate way to contact somebody. So I would only reach out to them very rarely, and sometimes I would almost reach out to them not asking anything in return. Like I because a lot of times you'll like promote a record, like, or an album. Well, the same thing, sorry. You'll put out an album or a single, right? And you'll promote that thing one time to the phone list. And by doing that, you're like, hey, I promoted the release or whatever. And then you don't message them for like another year or two because now you got the next release coming out. Some people may forget that you were, that they know you. Like, it just happens. I had one person who signed up for our text list at a show. And then when we sent them, hey, we just put out this release that you saw and you said you liked at the show, they were like, how'd you get this number? F you, your band name sucks. We're like, you went, like how did I get the number? I got it from you. You know what I'm saying? I got it from you. So if you don't follow up semi-regularly with these people, they may forget that you even exist. So I would send out, even if it's just like, hey, I hope you guys are doing well. We love all of our fans, and we just hope you guys are doing well. It's like a wellness check. Much love from us. Take care. And it's just the text messages like that. You're not asking for anything in return. It's just goodwill to your fans saying, hey, this is us reaching out to you to let you know that we're thinking of you and we love you and thank you so much. That's a great thing that you can do. And by doing that, you're building rapport with your audience, and it's a direct form of contact. And then when you have the release that comes out, it's like, hey, here's this band that was like giving me cool little, hey, we just hope you're doing well. You're awesome. That kind of stuff. And then you put out, hey, we have a new record coming out. You think they're going to want to like be more likely to check it out? Absolutely they are. So I'm actually going to put it in the, A category, because I think it's one of those top tier things that like if you can, for instance, tag which text messages, which phone numbers are in specific states, right? What you can do is anytime you have a show in a specific area, you can send out a text to the people in that area and say, hey, I've got a show here, 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 and here, or, I've got a show here, here's the info, click the link if you want tickets, I hope to see you there, we love you guys, love this, love you guys, insert band family, peace out. So that kind of thing can be super, super effective. The only reason I'm not putting it at S tier is ultimately you have to go through a lot of different transactions. Like, to me, you can get an email by giving something away for free, and it's just a little trade. It's a little transaction that happens. But for the phone, some people don't want to give up their phone number as easy, so you have to either have them buy a piece of merch, and then they have the phone number that comes in with it, and they, you let them check a box basically that says, hey, by putting in your phone number, you're opting into our text thing, so just click the box to make sure you understand that, and that kind of stuff. And that's, I think, something that can be done. I just think because it's a little, like, it doesn't convert as well, that's one of the criteria that we're using, right, is that it can get in front of fans. So if you have their number, you can certainly get in front of them. Can it convert? Absolutely. But, I think it's a little bit just like there's a little bit more hassles, and you got to do more to get the phone number. So in that sense, it's still a fantastic strategy, and that's why I'm putting it next to the Dream 100 and Reels. But yeah, it's not S tier, but it's certainly A tier in my opinion. All right, the next one, Battle of the Bands, F. for sure 100% F. I don't even know if anybody seen a Battle of the Bands around in a long time. I remember one time, it was 2014, I think. That's how long ago this was that I saw and participated in a Battle of the Bands. It was from Guerrilla Music Promotions. Yeah, I'm name calling straight up, because this was one of the worst productions I've ever seen in my life. And we participated in this thing where basically we sold tickets to a Battle of the Bands. And bands were going on from noon all the way to like 9 o'clock at night. And of course, there was nobody there for the early noon to 5 o'clock, sets. Then everyone got off work around 5, and then so some people sprinkled in around 6:30, and then the majority of the people were there around 8:30 to catch basically the last two bands. And it was just an overall train wreck, and ultimately there was like, that's part of the semifinals to go to the next stage. I'll tell you right now, most Battle of the Bands, there is no second show. The promoters collect that ticket money and they run. That's basically what happens. Because they were like, yeah, what we're going to do is you guys did the quarter, like with the quasi-finals or whatever. Now you're going to the semifinals, and then there'll be a final one. And if you can win all those, man, then you're going to get a record contract for a year, or you're going to get a management contract with this person, or something crazy like that. And it's overall just all a scam. The less said about that from now on, the better. So screw Battle of the Bands for the most part. I have not come across a legitimate one ever. Okay. Just posting regular images on your feed, right? Just kind of you in front of the van or you in front of the crowd, just like, hey, how's it going? Honestly, this is something that's like, I'm going to put this in the B category. Yeah, like I'm going to confidently put it there. Because I think it's one of those things that's it's not as good as Reels, right? But it's certainly better than text. And I think honestly it's better than Facebook Live. Like, not just Facebook Live in particular, but the live streams in general and blogs and things like that. So I think honestly that's where it's got to fall on this tier list. But I think it's pretty straightforward. You're just posting an image of something related to you. Now, I've seen some strategies with this where it's like most people can pick like 5 different things about their personality, right? You can pick like, for me, like, I love my dog, Betty. I love animals and dogs in particular, and I love my little Chiweenie Betty. Those of you that are on my Instagram know exactly what I'm talking about. She's a cutie pie. I love her. I love my family. I love playing music. I love teaching music and music business. And I also participate sometimes in philosophy or, psychology, things like that. So if you go to my Instagram, you're probably going to see, like, one of those 5 things every single time I post something, right? Sometimes it's going to be me just educating you about the music business. Sometimes it's going to be me posting about my family. Sometimes it's going to be me posting about, playing guitar and just this song that I learned. Those are different elements of my personality, who I genuinely am. So if you can figure out what are these 5 or so different kind of elements of yourself, and anytime, a good strategy, this is from, I think, I can't remember her name. I wish I could give her credit. I heard it from Russell Brunson, but he heard it from somebody else. So I can't remember who he heard it from. I think it was like, I wish I could say it. I just can't remember off the top of my head. It's the girl who I think does Lady Boss products, whatever her name is. And it's this idea where you have the 5 different categories about your life, and you take photos and you put them into these folders, basically. So you have a folder on your phone for this one thing, and you have a folder on your phone for this other thing. And so what you're doing is, as you take pictures, you're kind of putting them into these different folders. And then so on Instagram, you just kind of go like, you cycle through all 5 of them, just kind of post about this one, this. And it's just a nice rotating kind of piece of, you got all your content for your social media kind of in a circular system. It's very, very nice. So all in all, you guys understand that strategy, but I'm putting it at B in comparison with everything we have so far. All right, the next one, television. F. Yeah, you heard correctly. I am putting television worse than radio for sure, 100% for sure, which most people would be like, Dax, if I was able to get on TV, I would assume that's way better than being on radio. And I would say no, because television isn't really geared towards music-related content anymore. If this was back in the day when VH1 and MTV were playing music videos all the time, then absolutely TV would have been a relatively good investment because that's where all the eyeballs were. But now music-related content is very sparse. Now there's things like The Voice and all these kind of things. But could you imagine how expensive it would be to pay for an ad to go during commercial, during The Voice, and it was for your band's upcoming release? That would be insanely expensive that most average artists cannot afford. And I've also, a lot of people don't know this about me, I actually work with small businesses to help them increase their profits and stuff like that. And I was talking to this one business, and I wish I could have got with them like a week or two earlier, because they spent money on a television ad, and it was like tens of thousands of dollars, and it did literally, they said, we didn't get a single phone call that's from someone that said they saw our TV ad. And I was just like, oh dude, that sucks so bad, because I could have told you that, like, yeah, that's not where you would want to spend your money. I would rather you spend your money on paid ads on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, basically everywhere but television. And same with radio. So it's one of those things where television is just kind of an old media that is it's also expensive. There's a huge barrier to entry to get on kind of any television programming. There's also lots of like censors and things like that. So if your music is not completely within a certain box, then it's just, it's not even worth looking at. All right, let's jump to the next one. Hashtags. This is, and some people are like, why is that specifically mentioned inside of this? And the reason I would say this is because there's some people that really harp on like, hashtags, dude, you got to make sure you don't have any hashtags in your posts, man. That's like a pivotal part of your strategy is hashtags. Put it this way, all the CEOs of social medias have pretty much came out and said that hashtags don't matter. All hashtags do is they act as a categorization device for not the algorithm, but the platform, really. So that, yes, when someone clicks on this particular hashtag, then you will have content inside of that hashtag. But it's, as far as like a means of getting something in front of particular fans, it does an okay job at it. I think maybe when you're very first starting out, maybe use hashtags until you get like a core bit of your audience going. But then like after that, just don't I use a lot of hashtags, but that's kind of something I just done on autopilot for a long time. I have it built into a system within my business, so I figured like they don't hurt, so I have them on my posts, but I certainly don't obsess over them like I used to when I thought that they actually mattered. But social media, companies have come out and basically said, hey, they don't really matter that much. So in that grand scheme of things, they act as a decent way to categorize things, but all in all, I'm putting them next to just regular text posts, something like you'd see on Facebook. They're about that effective. Okay, the next one, labels. Wow, I've gone through a couple labels in my time, so I have seen the experience of good labels and bad labels. And what I can tell you is that the labels that are bad are really, really bad, and the labels that are good are okay. And what I mean by that is for the average musician. Remember, I'm trying not to make these blanket statements, but I want you guys to understand within the criteria that we're using for this tier list, it makes sense. Because for the average musician starting out, a record label is not that feasible of an option. And as far as the services they provide, I've noticed that some labels have contacts, but they have contacts that are sort of stuck in old media. So yeah, you can get some contacts, but they're not really with any people that are where you're trying to really be at. Now, if you're dealing with Warner Brothers or the Atlantic Records or Columbia Records, of course you're dealing with the top dogs of the top dogs, right? So it makes sense. But that's kind of one of those things that if you have to ask yourself, are you in a position that makes sense to have a label at this point? Like, what would you have done that warrants having a label? Well, we're just awesome and we're trying to get to the masses, so we need a label. Okay, well, if you want to do that, you're probably not going to own very much of your music or any of your success. You're going to be getting the 10, 20% of whatever it is, right? So it's one of those things where it's either E or F. So I'm going to put it in E. Just because once you get to a position where you're making decent money, you have a solid, good, like more than 1,000 diehard fan core audience, right? And you're living okay as an artist, and you're making some money, and you're independent, and you have freedom, then it can make sense in certain circumstances to work with labels. And the reason I put it above Battle of the Bands and television is because even if you're making enough money at that point, television and Battle of the Bands are still terrible. So I'm putting record labels at E on par with radio magazines, and you can see that old media does seem to be kind of at the bottom in a group together. Now, these last three are pretty nice. They're a nice little blend of old and new. So let's kind of dive into the next one, live shows. Okay. My opinion on live shows. There's a huge downside to live shows that no one talks about because we know all the upsides. The upsides are you can play in front of a big crowd, you can sell a lot of money at the merch table, you can have this experience where you're seen and there's a great crowd interaction and all this great stuff. But what does all of that require to be successful? It requires people to be at the show. So what I mean is the only people that you can convert to being a fan are the people who are at the show. So if you go to a show and there's 15 people there, if you don't convert all 15 people, you convert 1 or 2 people, then that show is kind of a giant waste of time, because you could have taken the same money you spent to get to that show and fulfill the show into advertising or building an email or reels or whatever, and that would have returned you more eyeballs and people aware of your music than the show would. Now, where artists get stuck is live shows are fun. They're really fun. They're a great source of fulfillment for a lot of artists because they go out and they perform their music in front of a crowd that likes their music, and they can release energy and they can have reciprocal energy with the crowd. It's really an amazing thing, having played over 700 shows in my lifetime. I can tell you that it's a fantastic thing. And so it pains me to say that it's not S tier, it's not A tier, and it may not even be B tier. It may be C tier, honestly. But it all just requires on things like promoters, promotion, and I mean that separately, like your promotion as a band and then the promoters themselves. Those things play a huge factor into it. Just the general draw of the bands. There's so many different variables there that to get a good, successful live show is a very meticulous and hard thing to pull off. It's very hard. It's not hard to put on a live show. Contrary to what you may think, to put on a live show is actually very easy. To put on a live show that sells tickets and gets people in the door and the bands play on time, and they don't go over the time and everyone's respectful and everything runs smoothly, that's extremely difficult. And most bands and most shows do not pull this off. And so that's what makes me want to put it at a C level, honestly. But, our B category is looking a little lonely, so that makes me want to put it at a B, but that's not a good reason to put it off of B. So I think I may get some heat for this because it all really depends on your ability to get on big shows. Now, some bands are good at finding the promoters who are putting on the big shows, and they're able to get themselves onto these big shows. And for a lot of other bands, that might be for the average artist, I think we could put B on this. I think we could put B on this and feel good about it, because an average artist can reach out to a local promoter. They can reach out and say, hey, I know you're booking these bigger bands. I just would love to have our band be a consideration of yours whenever you're looking for bands to open these kind of shows. We'll happily play. We'll open. You won't get any money or anything, so don't ask for it. But just offer yourself up to be like, I will play these shows if you ever need some bands to come up there and play. And you might get some actually pretty decent opportunities if you can network with a good local promoter who's doing good shows. So I think that's something actually every average musician can do. And if you're able to get on a good show, that can get you in front of eyeballs. That can convert audiences if you have a good live show. And you can monetize really well at a live show if you've got some good inventory. So, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of variables, but you don't have to have, for instance, you don't have to have the biggest merch display in the world to make a lot of money on merch. It's all about scale, right? You know, like if you have a $10 item and you can get 100 people to buy a $10 item, then you're getting $1,000 right there. So it's all about having items that you can sell. I would rather you have 150 of one item and 150 of another item, and so you have two items at the merch table, but you have a lot of inventory, and you can sell that. Then you have like 12 different things, but you've got 10 of each, right? I feel like that's a worse position to be in. So I'm going to put live shows at B, and we're going to move on to these last two. All right, flyers. I've personally done this. This kind of falls within the street team thing, but that's the specific thing about street teams is that other people are now responsible for this kind of thing. We kind of talked about flyers. You can put them up inside of the window of like a 7-Eleven, any kind of gas station, tattoo parlor. You can put them up on bulletin boards of local coffee shops and sandwich shops and places like that, you know. I think it can be a decent, you know, put them up in music stores, put them up in guitar centers and Sam Ash's and your mom and pops, you know, things like that. That can be relatively effective, you know. It does kind of expose you to a very niche community, you know, when you do things like that. But hey, if you do this over like a big surface area trying to promote a show or you're trying to promote a release, that can be something very effective, you know. I mean, it just requires a lot of man hours and things like that. But here's what I can tell you. I did this strategy a long time ago. Notice I've pretty much done 99% of all of these. So, except for television, because no, absolutely not. But with one of our shows that we had, we built these flyers, and we would even go to different venues who were hosting shows that had bands who had fans that we thought would be great for our show. We would go and we would lift up their windshield and put, you know, a little show flyer in there, and we did that to hundreds of cars, and we put out these kind of things, you know, at 7-Elevens and things of that sort, and it did okay. And that's the thing that kind of, it does require you, you know, depending on, unless you just got all the stuff at home to do this, it does require you to kind of print these out. So you can design it for free on Canva, but now you got to go actually print it. So you got to go to like FedEx office or somewhere like that to print it. And for those kind of reasons, you're spending a fair bit of money. Nothing crazy. Like you may spend like $50 or something, or maybe a little bit more if you get a lot of them. But the return that you get usually from that doesn't usually help you, you know, just based on my experiments and doing this in different places. So I'm going to actually put it in the D category. And now finally, we have reached the end. By the way, thank you for making it all the way to the end here. We have DMs. This is another kind of thing where I have it, you know, where it looks like just Instagram DMs, but this could also be Facebook DMs. This could be Snapchat. This could be TikTok DMs, any kind of direct message, right? And so what this is kind of like another intimate piece of contact info. So we think of like, what's the most intimate contact info? Probably the phone, right? And then there's the email, which is not as intimate as the phone. But where does DMs fall in that? Is it between? Was it below? Where is it? In my opinion, I think your DMs are just underneath phone as far as how intimate of a piece of contact info that is. So if I send somebody an email every single day, I don't think they're going to get that upset. But if I send somebody a text every single day, I think they might get upset. Also, if I send them a DM every single day, I think they might get a little bit upset as well. So because of that, I think it's that much more of an intimate kind of thing. But I have noticed that very few people seem to be receptive to buying things through a DM. So you have to be very particular in the way you present the content. So can it be effective though? Well, it is a direct reach out to the fans. And again, you can use the DMs not just as a way to monetize, even though that is what we are looking for. You can use DMs in the strategy of like building rapport. So somebody sends you, like they tag you in something, instead of just like hearting that they shared your stuff, you can type back to them or send them an audio like, hey, this is Dax from Cure. Just wanted to say that's so awesome that you did that. Thank you for doing that. So that's kind of one of those things that I think can be actually very effective. So in my opinion, I think DMs, I'm going to put them in the B category. I think ultimately that's where they belong because ultimately what we're looking for here is we're looking for the average person can definitely implement this for sure. It's not expensive. Can you get in front of eyeballs? Yeah, kind of. As many as you have, and a lot of people are following thousands of people or have 1,000 followers or so, but potentially that you can message. And it does have the ability to monetize, but it's okay. But if you can type it, if you get that copy down, it can actually be really effective and very lucrative. So it's one of those things. I almost want to put it at C. But I just don't know if you would say DMs are the same as forums. You know what I'm saying? I feel like forums are definitely still underneath DMs as far as that's concerned. All right, guys, this is it. The tier list has been built. So the S tier, we have email and ads. If you want the best way to have direct contact with your existing fans, you have to build them into an email list. And then how do you get them into the email list? You would use advertising to get them into that email list, because those two things you can target very specifically so you get the highest quality people that would be the most receptive to your music in your email list. The level A, we've got the Dream 100 strategy. Get the strategic partnerships that will benefit your music business. Posting a lot of organic reels and shorts, those kind of things. Very beneficial. And another list to build up would be your phone list, because you can contact your fans directly. Now we have row B. We've got image posts, live shows, and DMs. So notice this is kind of like your average stuff that a lot of people are doing nowadays that kind of works. It can be effective if it's done properly. Posting a good picture on your Instagram or something like that, or posting, a good, message in a DM, right? Or having a great live show. It can work. It's what a lot of people are doing, and they're kind of tried and true, but they're not as great as the other ones. Level C, this is kind of the average sort of stuff. Getting on blogs and websites like that, they're okay. Live streams can be good, but it's all kind of situation depending on the platform. Forums can be decent. Again, it just depends on how much traffic is in those forums. Playlists can be great. Depends on who's curating the playlist and whether bots are involved. And then you have affiliates/street team, which can be a very effective way to get more promotion out of a release from the word of mouth side of things, which can be good, but it's kind of a complicated process for some people to set all this up and train their affiliates to be good affiliates and not get you in trouble and all this kind of stuff. All right, row D, now it's kind of the quality is really getting lower. We've got just regular text-only posts. We've got hashtags and flyers. You can see these things are sort of like a lot of average stuff that people can do on social media and do often, where it's just an image, or excuse me, not just an image, that would actually be better. It's just text, it's just words, there's no pictures, there's no video attached to it. Now, you obviously want text associated to your images or your videos, but just text by itself has become kind of a very stale way to consume social media, so not a lot of people will probably be receptive if it's text only. Then you have hashtags. That's just a categorization device. It doesn't really do great in promoting you, because if you create your own hashtag and stuff, it's like that's kind of useless, unless you have a lot of content inside of that hashtag. Flyers, same kind of thing. They in theory look like, if I just get them out to enough people that it should work, and it kind of does, but a little bit not so much. Now we're getting even worse. So now we're at radio. Okay, now we have to spend lots of money to get here, and even then, we've got no way to track the data. No way to track it. Then we've got magazines. Same exact problem. Very expensive. no way to track the data. And honestly, we're not even sure that it actually converts that well. So the investment doesn't even seem like it'd be worth it. And that's the kind of running theme that you have with labels, is that it's not really worth the investment. If you have the money, I would say labels might even be a D category, because they do have the same expensive problem as magazines and radio. But again, you know what? I'm going to be, who would have thought? I'm actually going to like do something that's unprecedented on the channel. I'm going to give labels an actual, like, I'm going to give them a bump here and put them up to D, because I do think ultimately a label is better than radio and magazines. Not by very much. So that's kind of where I'm going to rank it overall in this kind of stuff. Now we have the worst of the worst, which is like that battle of bands promotion stuff that you may see trying to scam you out of some hard-earned, so your hard work and your performance and your time and energy. And then you have television, which is just a whole big fat waste of time and money, because if someone saw an ad for your album on their local TV station, they may be more shocked than anything. And how do you guarantee that you get it specifically to fans that like that specific music? You may have a whole bunch of people that consume that ad and they're just like, I don't like that kind of music, that sucks. And so it's all wasted money. So in my opinion, this is the definitive tier list. What would you guys have done differently than what I have up here? Would you have switched a couple around and put them in different places? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what y'all's tier list would look like. Heck, if you wanted to make your own video, I would love to see that as well. If tell me how much you thought I was wrong and thought everything about this was completely backwards, that's fine with me. I don't really care. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and like I said, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on this are. And I hope you guys would continue to check out videos on the channel. We've got hundreds of videos now of free music business training content that will kind of teach you how to implement some of the better parts of these strategies within my channel. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you guys on another video. Take care. Whoa!